Hi there, this is Stones for my weekly review. This week I'm really not proud of what I've done and all the trades I took. I'm quite ashamed to have to share it, but it's part of the process. I'll try to go quickly over everything. In trading, it takes a while to get rid of bad habits or get out of bad mindsets, and sadly I've just repeated what I've done the previous week. And coming back from my 3 weeks break as well, I thought I was going to have a way better behavior. And it doesn't happen often that I sort of tilt and have really bad trading like this. But there is one reason to that whole thing is I've changed the way I approach the market and the time frames I usually take trades on and my whole mindset on a day-to-day basis. I was so focused with that 4 hour time frame pattern that I wanted to get an entry on. Then I was too involved in the market and I was looking at the market every day to monitor this trade, and that just got me to overtrade on the other time frames. There's one big thing that I do not like about high time frame and holding a trade for many days is this: once you're in the trade, you can move your stop loss to break even at some point, but you're always monitoring because the idea that you have might not play out. And so every day you have to look at the market and decide, okay, is my idea still valid? Is it not? Do I move my stop loss? Do I take the risk of going back all the way back to break even? Is it better for me to shut my trade now and take what I have? And this is exactly what happened this week when the pattern I had in mind did not play out and I didn't do what I had to do. So yeah, so that's the main mistake, and I think this is what pushed everything wrongly in my trading and in my approach. I usually focus on the 5 minute, the 2 minute, and I come to the market. I have my trading window of 2 or 3 hours of trading, and I try to take a trade in there. And whatever happens on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, I keep it for my bias, but this is not what dictates my trading for the day. Usually, I don't really care what's the price of Bitcoin, what's the price of Ethereum. I'm just looking at a little bounce or little reaction on the small time frame, benefit from that move, and then get out, close my laptop, and I can come back the next day. It doesn't matter. I can come back in a week after. It doesn't matter. I'm just trading that session open, and I usually get out of my trade before the end of the session. And so all these rules that I have in place for my trading and the way I trade, I just disregarded them, and I overtraded, and I tried to be on every side of the market, and I flipped from bullish to bearish so many times, and I was trying to get that move for that was getting out of the range, and yeah, it just didn't work. I'm gonna start with Tao, which I took a trade on, and I usually don't trade altcoins because they're a little bit unpredictable, and this is exactly what happened here. And Tao has been the only outlier that's been pumping when the market was bearish. So I had my 3 levels. The retrace down, we were consolidating in this range, and that's when I decided to take a shot at having a short on Tao, because in the past, if you look, it often gets a top and then just bleeds down without giving you a proper formation or proper clear entry. So my idea was really that price was gonna range here and drop here on Monday open or even Sunday afternoon. This is why I entered throughout the weekend. This entry on a Sunday wasn't too bad, and we did get the drop, but from the moment that candle closed, I really sort of didn't want to trust this big wick, and I thought it was going to be a trap, and that market was going to still retest that zone before dropping lower. I should have protect myself here and go back to break even, or even like closing little profit at the close of that candle. It's something I usually do. I'm very keen and fast on going break even, but took a loss on this one. And then once we had that retest right into that wick here, it was an aggressive entry. Entered this trade, same, and then I had my Monday open, which was Monday low here, that I thought we were going to break and keep going. And the thing is, we created this W. We were still holding, and this is at the point where I accepted that Bitcoin and Ethereum were not bearish anymore. So I just lowered my stop loss, and so I ended up making money with this 1-all loss here, and this was a 2-all win. So I'm 1-all positive on this trade, but not worth it. Took me too long. Definitely still not touching altcoins. So on Bitcoin and Ethereum, this pattern that I wanted to play out on Bitcoin, I entered last week on this 4 hour here, entry here, stop loss up here. was all playing out perfect. We had this little rebound over the weekend, and like I said, on Sunday afternoon and Monday open, I was expecting further drop and a cascade of price action like we previously seen in the past. So here, that retest on a midweek before dropping. And I know I had one level, two level, and usually when you have this before on the Friday, the weekend and the market open on Monday will give you the third level, and then usually this is the fake move. You'll have your reversal and your trade higher. So at the close of this candle, I should have closed that trade. I was targeting all these lows without taking profits. I clearly should have closed it here at that level, and it still would have been a good trade. I still had in hope that this was a little bearish retrace before continuation, and I had 1, 2, 3 levels in my count. A nice rejection of the 4-hour 200. I moved my stop loss up here to protect myself and still bank some profit, but it was just minimal. I think it turned out to be a 1.7 trade. We were as well holding these lows. That's when I turned actually bullish on the price action because we couldn't break further, and I thought Friday, because it was a bank holiday, Friday could give the move back, and I got chopped in that zone pretty bad, and I've lost most of my loss of the week happened on Friday here when I just got chopped, and the move ended up happening Monday morning. But I was right here, just very early. And on Ethereum, so Bitcoin I entered here, and on Ethereum I ended up entering here on the Friday. The setup was good. We went back to break even. We dropped, but when we had this week, same. I should have closed my trade here, at least go break even, but I did not. Big mistake because of this week, and that one that I thought was a trap. I've let price go higher than this one because it was an easy target to take the weekend highs, and I had in mind whatever retrace, go lower. So I've let that trade open. Big mistake, because what I go by is that I can always go break even. If price goes back here anyway and shows me bearishness, I can still re-enter the trade with a better, sometimes a better entry and better stop loss. And I've let it go back all the way to my stop loss after holding this trade for the whole weekend. So same really bad behavior on this one. So this was my Monday open on both assets, and I'm quite pissed off because here at CME open, this pattern happened in the past, and I really wanted to open a short here because I knew we were going to drop, and I should have, because to that target there was an easy 2R on Bitcoin, maybe even better on Ethereum here. I did not take this trade just because I had the higher time frame trade open, so I didn't want to mix everything, and I didn't want to be stopped out on this one and give some money back while I'm on profit on the other one. It stopped me from taking this trade. It stopped me from taking this beautiful retest of, so you have the other block that took the liquidity, sharp move down, and you have sharp move up, that retest. This is a amazing breaker block, even better on Ethereum. I was here for this one, the short, that if I didn't have the higher time frame trade I would have taken it. I did not, and I did not take this one neither because of the higher time frame trade, and I just wanted to hold those ones and until they went to TP lower. Third good trade that I did not take, and I was actively looking at it, is the same retest of that zone here on Bitcoin, and you have this clear reclaim of 50% Asia from the Monday at Asia Open, big tweezer railroad tracks here. This was a great entry, that same I wanted to take that I did not take. This one was a beautiful trade too, and this was in line with this being a level 1, a retest, and a level 2. And always the way I trade within my session, just aim for whatever liquidity I've got on top, even wherever, even those highs here would have been enough. Ethereum was actually reclaiming its previous week low here, so 2 weeks prior. Go below this level, sweep it with a big W, final damage, and then here a nice reclaim, this demand area. I mean, this was a beautiful trade at Asia Open. Same. This is part of the trades I did not take, and I regret a lot. It feels like really like all the good trades I did not take, and I just took all the bad ones. A little bit like what happened over the last few months. The week goes on, and here on Wednesday is when I really thought that this was the higher retest I was going to get on the 4-hour before going lower. So I said it on Twitter. It was my last bearish level for me. It was here on Bitcoin. and here on Ethereum when I had the retest of my 4-hour 200 EMA. And so this is here, this was my retest, and this was where I dropped my stop loss on the higher time frame trade. I ended up being stopped out, and the same here happened on Ethereum. So I had my dropping volume formation in this range, and I thought we were gonna drop, same as the high in US, the lower high in dead gap zone, and the lower high in Asia. The thing is, I front ran that trade and I entered it at the end of US, and there's a couple trade I did lately that I did enter end of US that are mistakes because this is outside of my trading zone. When price decided to on the lower time frame here retest and showing that it was going to go higher, I adjusted my stop loss to those trap traders in that candle, and I really didn't want price to go higher because my idea was dropping volume formation and down. At open, price goes up, stops me out, and reclaims down, and I'm like, okay, I was wrong, and this is actually an M formation, this is still valid. So I re-entered this trade, and then I had to leave the chart, and I did not monitor all this. Taking those lows, reclaiming the 50 with big volume, and ranging here was a clear sign that we were going to push higher. I could have probably exited that trade at the 2-hour mark. Yeah, I haven't even respected this 2-hour mark trade on those last week trades. There's so many rules that went out of the window, and this is why it costed me so much. So many trades held for longer than what I should, not moving my stop loss to break even on others. All this accumulating just ended up being mistakes after mistake and costing me a lot. But at this point, even with this loss and a half, I'm break even on the week, and I'm thinking I need to manage myself, so I'll probably just stop here and just don't make it worse. But I did. So I'll get back a little bit onto the higher time frame context. At this point, I thought this was a retrace. Then we had this massive drop, and all this area I wasn't sure, like, are we still bearish? Are we flipping bullish from this sweep, and we were just going to creep higher, reclaim those EMAs and go higher? This big drop threw a little bit of a spanner in the works, and it got me, okay, we might still be bearish. And after this drop, I was thinking if we are bearish, we're going to get a retest and we're going to drop lower. The other thing is, like I said, all those lows were taken, and at this point we retested those lows, so didn't break them again, and we were starting to move higher. This is when I flipped bullish here in this zone. I thought this was my retest before going bearish again. I ended up entering same mid to late of US, entering here because this was my retest. We had a liquidity sweep. We were retesting 50% of the previous week. So I entered this trade. The moment this candle here reclaims the 50 with big volume down, big volume up, I closed this trade. So I closed this trade and I'm like, okay, this is bearish. We might actually flip to the upside. Enter this trade and do the same thing when, instead of retesting this EMA, when price tapped and had this bearish formation here and went back under, I closed that trade as well. So I took a 0.25 on this trade and a 0.4 all loss on this trade. So here getting chopped up in the worst timing of the day, which is end of US into dead gap zone. Bitcoin ends up dropping, tap this liquidity, drops down. I'm like, okay, if we respect this supply now, we just tap liquidity, we might drop. This was 50% of Asia as well at the time. So I end up entering here on the retest. I have my stop loss pretty high. Usually if I enter over retest like this on top of the supply. Anyway, enter this trade. Same, worst timing, just before Asia extension, sessions change over, and price just ends up going the other way. I closed as soon as price didn't drop the way I wanted it to drop and stayed here. I closed at break even. So this was actually a good trade because the entry had reasons, and I exited like I usually do as soon as price doesn't go my way, and because I as well realized that I was in the wrong timing of the day to enter a trade. And I know my chart's very messy, but bear with me. I end up realizing that we are bullish. We've got liquidity sweep on Ethereum into the demand zone. Bitcoin is respecting that demand zone, and on the higher time frame, we've had this big liquidity grab at the start of the week. Ethereum is staying very well above this level, leaving all these traders trapped, and Bitcoin does the exact same thing, but takes this low when Ethereum doesn't do it, and then we start reclaiming those breaker blocks and retesting the demand. So this is when I turned bullish. And because it was public holiday on Friday and we had NFP at the end of UK, I was really thinking that the move was going to happen on the Friday, as we have sometimes an explosive move on the Friday. People turn bullish. You will liquidate them by the Sunday or the Monday morning or take them out. And then we keep going to the upside following the trend. What happened realistically is just price didn't go anywhere. I had a good entry on this trade, and actually a good entry. I got stopped on this one for being very early, but I had another entry here with a stop loss. If I had just traded the way I trade, so entry, stop, and target those highs, I would have banked a 3-hour trade here at NFP. I did not expect NFP to just do this whipsaw like this, up and down and retest. And when I entered this trade and this one here, I left them up and I had my alarm for US open because I wanted to see US reaction to NFP, but the reaction to NFP happened straight away in UK and just whipsaw. And then when I woke up here, I was already out of these two positions. So the big one was a high time frame, again, mistake. And this one was a small time frame, and I should have set up a take profit up here, which would have been a winning trade, which I did not do. I was aiming from a small time frame entry to get a big risk to reward trade, and that was another mistake of my week in the middle of all the other ones. And you can see here all my trades for this previous week. It's really disgusting. The Tau trade with the lowered stop loss stopped out in profit, and the Bitcoin one, which is not showing because I probably entered before the 29, but that Bitcoin one as well. And then all those trades were the losses from Friday. Like, terrible. So the account is almost at bridge. I've got $600 left. I'm very not proud of it. We'll do what we can. I won't buy another evaluation. I'm gonna trade with what I've got left on this account. Probably take 2 trades of $300 just to get back into a good rhythm. So yeah, that's the goal for next week. So yeah, not pretty. Like I said in the intro, the higher time frame drained me, and I've spent way too much time looking at my charts when I usually show up. If something looks good and I set up, I'll trade. Otherwise, I'll just stay away from the charts. Something I did not do. This week, I'm going to relax, and the next one as well. I've got family over. I might trade, but I'm really going to detach myself from the market. And I've reviewed all my rules, and I make sure I'm going to reread them again every day, something I used to do and that I've stopped lately because they were so ingrained, but it seems that I've lost it and I need to go back to those basics, respecting all my rules, the ones that I've built over the years to protect me. And hopefully we'll do something decent and finally have a green week over these last months. I'm really disgusted by the way things have went, and then this is when I started sharing my journey as well, so it's quite difficult. I don't think it puts that much pressure on me. I just know that I usually try to behave good in my trading because I'm showing it after, but this week was a perfect example that it did not stop me from having the shittiest of the behavior. So yeah, on to next week, on to really getting good habits again, following the rules, and get good trading. See you.